everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel, RelaxCutGlue. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. So this morning I received an email from a subscriber asking if I could show me fussy cutting and some tips and tricks. I have been asked this several times before, so for those of you that already fussy cut and know what you're doing and whatnot, then I don't know, like the video and keep watching. But for those of you who really need to know some ins and outs, I'm gonna share them with you because we all have to learn somewhere, right? Okay, so to start off, this is my basket. Say hello, basket. Let's give it a little, make sure it behaves. This basket I take with me when I go to sit on the couch, or I go in my dining room, or I'm going in the car, or whatever. It's my fussy cutting basket. So I have two little trays that I made out of a piece of paper. This one is the stuff that I've already cut, which I obviously need to file this stuff away because my bin is getting big. And this one I use, like if I have my basket here, I'll kind of put my little tray right in front of it on my lap so that I catch all the little bits, and then I just empty that. Okay, so there's that. One of the best things I can say about fussy cutting is to get good scissors. I know that sounds silly to some, and all scissors are not created equal, unfortunately, but you don't have to have the best scissors, okay? Everything I'm doing today you can do with regular scissors, but I'm telling you, when I switched to better scissors, it made a difference. Now I use the Timm HOLTZ. These are the 7-inch Tonic Scissors, Timm HOLTZ. They have a very sharp tip. You want to be really careful of that. And the blades, I don't know if you can tell, there you go. They're serrated. So when I cut, like, let's see here, you know, you can really hear it, because those serrated edges help grab the paper. So, you know, when you're going to kind of, like you're cutting a magazine piece and you're kind of going around, sometimes because your scissors are sharp and magazine is thin, your scissors kind of slide, like when you're cutting wrapping paper and you go like this and it makes that awesome like gliding motion and slides right through. Okay, well that's not awesome when you're fussy cutting, right? Because it ruins our image. Well, the serrated scissors kind of hold onto that paper a little bit, so you get a good cut. Now you can do this with other kinds of scissors. I didn't use these in the beginning, but I swear by them. They are my go-to. I also have the 5-inch pair, which I thought I'd really like because the blade is really tiny, and the blade is small on these as well. But the handle is really inconvenient and tiny, and I have very small hands, you guys. My ring is a size 4. So these fit a lot better. And I can show you, actually. Here's the difference. Here's my size 5. Here's my size 7. Pretty big difference there. So I have those. They also have a size 9. Okay, the next thing is when you are cutting an image, we'll take this image, for example. Let me lower you guys down a little bit. Stop wiggling. Geez, you guys are going to need a Dramamine. Okay, so when you're cutting, you want to move the paper, not your scissors. You aren't going like this, right? Your scissors pretty much stay in the same spot. You turn your paper when you want to cut something. So like for instance, for here, okay, I'm gonna go around the toes and see I'm moving my paper, and I kind of slowly put the pressure down on the handles of my scissors, and I kind of slowly, as I'm rotating, I'm pushing down really lightly, and that gives me that nice, clean, crisp edge around the corners there, and it's not choppy. So yeah, just take your time, you know, and turn your paper, not your scissors. And you know, I'm telling you, that sounds really silly, I know. You would think that we would just kind of know this stuff, but I did not realize that when I first started cutting. And once I learned to turn the paper, not my scissors, oh my gosh, it was like, duh, you know, like how come I didn't think about that? You know, and we probably do it anyways, but you know, like when you're more conscious about it, like especially going around something rounded, I have much more control and I can get the finer details a lot better. Okay, so another thing about fussy cutting, and lately I've been doing this more, is I like to leave a little tiny edge around my image. I did not cut straight up to his leg. I left a tiny, tiny little ledge there. I do that because, one, it's more forgiving for me. I did not used to do that. I used to go straight up to the edge and really fussy cut them out. But I almost always ink all my images, and I just, you know, this is easier on me to just kind of lightly go around, even leaving a little bit of that white edge when you put it down on your collage item or your glue book. Sometimes I feel like it really helps make the image pop. So sometimes I leave that little border, but I don't leave very much border. And see right here, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I went in a little bit tighter here, so there's not as much white border. But once you put this down on something, you're not going to notice that at all. That's why I keep my border really small in the first place. I don't do a big, thick white border. I almost am fussy cutting him straight, you know, just the image, but just a tiny, tiny, skinny little border. And that helps me get all the bits without a big, huge clump of white around there. Okay, so I'm turning my paper because I'm going around the edge. And then I feel weird saying this. I'm pretty anal. I think you guys, if you've been watching me at any point in time, you know, I really like things pretty perfect. But it's funny because depending on what it is, sometimes I don't care. So like here, you can't really tell where I went skinnier and where I, you know, left more border. And sometimes when I'm all done and I look at it, if I see something that's like the border's really thick, like right here, because I was talking, I really didn't give like definition to his toes, I'll just kind of go back, you know, and just kind of take some of that out if it's necessary. If you're not that anal like me, then don't worry about it. Okay, now the next thing, another trick or tip, I guess I should say, another tip. So when we have images like this where there's something inside that we need to cut, like usually it's arms, I find a lot of times it's arms. So see, your fingers are connected to her shoulders there. You can do one of two things. You can use an X-Acto knife and cut this out. The problem with that is X-Acto knives, you know, they're kind of dangerous if you don't use them regularly. Always use a sharp blade. It's actually better for you if your blade is sharper than duller. It'll actually cut the paper better, and it won't hurt you as much to be sliced and diced by a fresh blade than a dull blade. I know that sounds really gross, but it's true. It really is. I've been using X-Acto knives for a really long time, so I'm very comfortable using them. But if you're not, here's another little thing. So right here is this little white spot in between his legs right there. I would normally just use an X-Acto knife to cut that out. But if I was like in my car or something and I didn't have room, what I would do here is right where his foot is, I'm just gonna follow his foot line and then cut up in here, cut up in here. I could leave a little border. I guess I probably should have, since I put a border on everything else, but I didn't. And then I will just cut out this white piece, okay? And then when I glue this back down, I just kind of set this back where it would be. You will never know. You cannot tell that I just cut his legs apart, but I was able to get that. And then when you glue it back down, you know, you just glue it flush, and you will not be able to tell that you just cut those legs apart. So that's one way to do it. Like right here, see how her hand is right up next to her shoulder? You could take an X-Acto knife and cut out that little triangle, or I can go right where they meet and then cut this out. And then I just put the paper back, and you can't even tell that I've cut that out. But technically I did. I cut into the image. But when you glue it down, you won't be able to tell it all, like at all. So that's another little tip. That really helped me for when I didn't want to use an X-Acto knife. You can also maybe put, like for this right here, you can also, like this one's a little bit bigger, so this will be easier to do. You saw me do this the other day, but you know, you can always just put a little line in there with your X-Acto blade and then put your scissors in and then cut this out like so. Don't take these scissors though. I mean, you guys can do whatever you want. You're grown adults, but sometimes I had the tendency to like put my finger back here and lightly push my scissors through the paper to make a hole. I don't know why I've done this so many times, and it hurts every single time. These scissors are very sharp, so even when I'm doing it really slow and just kind of lightly want to put a little hole in the paper, I poke myself and I make myself bleed. So don't do that, okay? We don't want blood all over our glue images here. So anyways, that's another way to do it. If you don't want to cut out the whole thing with a X-Acto knife, you just cut a little hole and then you can put your scissors in there. Or, you know, whatever. You guys are not new to cutting. Just you could kind of fold it and put a little hole in there with your scissors as well. All right, okay. And then for things like this, I took this out because I got this bird book at the thrift store, and I've been cutting out all these birds. Well, I don't want to fussy cut out all these teeny tiny little lines, right? I mean, that's ridiculous. So what I've been doing is I'll fussy cut this, again, leaving a very thin border. You don't have to do that. That's just what I prefer these days. I'll probably switch it up and, you know, kind of go around his little feet here. And if I didn't want to use his feet, like I might even, and I'll just do an example of what I was getting at here. What I was going to do was go around the feet and just cut off this branch, but I'm just going to get rid of his feet. They're clawy and they're not cute. So I'm just going to take them off. So I'm still going to do that thin border, but just skip right over his feet. And yes, you can see that the black goes to the edge, but because I do such a fine little border, you don't even think that I just cut off a tree and his feet. Like once you put this down, you won't be able to tell. I mean, sure, I guess if you looked at it close enough, like, but you know, and so here I'm just going to cut out that tree and still fussy cut around the bird. And then once you put this down on something, you know what, you especially notice, like, I did this with an owl. Once I put him in collage, you could not tell at all that I had cut out, you know, his feet and part of the limbs. You know what I mean? So don't be afraid to, like, when you look at this, you're not going, oh my gosh, she cut off a tree over here. Like I can barely see the green right now, right here. So, you know, it's not super obvious that I cut those off, but nobody wants to sit and tiny cut out every single tiny little thing like that. Like ain't nobody got time for that, right? I mean, if you do, that's cool. Like, you know, whatever. Okay, so what's up next? I had something else in my mind. Oh yeah. So another thing to do with cutting, when I'm cutting square images, let's find one here. I had some perfect ones here a second ago. Where did they go? So when I have square images, I almost always use my paper trimmer. One, it's faster, and two, I cut really straight, and even sometimes I just sounded so full of myself, but I just cut straight. I always have my whole life. I don't know what the deal is. I'm just special, I guess. Anyways, I cut pretty straight, okay? And it drives me nuts when it's not straight, and it's too much for me. So I always use this when I'm doing straight lines, unless I want more of a jagged edge, and then I use my metal ruler. You can use whatever you have, but I turn it upside down and I just kind of line it up on the edge, and then you have to really hold this down and make sure, like I'm pressing pretty hard so that my paper stays where it's at, and I do quick little things like this, and then I'm gonna move my hands and then like that, okay? And then that gives you that kind of ripped, torn edge, and then when you ink it, You know, you can really get some ink on there, and it has a really cool effect. So sometimes with square images, I like to rip it with my ruler. And I just think that that helps a lot. Okay, so let's go over what we learned today. 1, good scissors. Serrated tip helps. These are the Timm HOLTZ. You can find them in my description box. I'm an Amazon affiliate, so you can see that link down there. What else? Move the paper, not the scissors. Cutting out around the arms and the legs and whatnot. You don't have to worry about using an X-Acto knife. You can just take your scissors and cut, right into that. And then when you glue it down, you won't even be able to tell, provided you glue it down right. Like sometimes these things wrinkle and you're like, ah. Anyways, okay. Take your time when you're cutting. It's not an Olympic sport. If you don't care how precise your stuff turns out, whatevs. Like we each do our art totally different. There's no wrong way. There's no right way. These are just some tips and tricks that I've learned over the years that I'm sharing with you. What else? For squares, I like to use a trimmer or a ruler. And that's what I do there. All right. So that is my tips and tricks. I think what I'll do is just silently cut for the next few minutes because there's a lot of people out there that ask me to do the ASMR and just cut without talking. And I know there's a ton of you out there that are like, ugh, I hate it when you don't talk. I can't please everybody. What's that saying? You can't please everybody or not a jar of Nutella. Okay, shh. Serious time. We're gonna be quiet now. Except for my breathing, you can always hear that because my microphone's like right by my face. I'm really not a heavy breather. Okay, shh. All right, guys, I have to go. Shermie is ready for his dinner. I hope you guys all have a wonderful night tonight. If you have any more questions for me, please don't hesitate to email me at RelaxCutGlue@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching and have a wonderful evening. Bye.